London must be one of the most multicultural places in the whole world. I'm here today at City University of London. There are students here from every country, every background, from every religion or non-religion, and it makes me think of the diversity within my own family. My full name is Father Stephen Wei-John Wang, and you can probably guess from the name that I come from a mixed-race family, and my parents and grandparents come from very different religious and cultural backgrounds. My Scottish grandmother was Anglican and then Catholic. My English grandfather was Methodist, then a Quaker, then he became an Anglican. My Chinese grandfather grew up in a Protestant Christian community in China, and when they emigrated to England, he settled in an Anglican parish. And my Chinese grandmother was Buddhist, and she stayed Buddhist for the whole of her life. Most families have some kind of religion somewhere in the background. But things have changed, at least in the West, over the last few decades. A recent survey found that for the first time since records began, over half of the population of the UK say that they have no kind of religious affiliation at all. These are the famous nuns, the N-O-N-E-S, the nuns. This is part of a bigger story that some people have called the death of God. People have been predicting for over 200 years that with modern science, better healthcare, public education, greater affluence, there would just be no more need for religion anymore. What's the point of praying if you've got Amazon Alexa to answer every question and deliver all your needs? But is this story really true? In reality, religious faith is growing today in most parts of the world. Globally, over 84% of the world's population say that they belong to some kind of religion. 84%, 8-4. And that percentage is actually growing, not shrinking, year on year. Now, of course, this doesn't prove that there is a God or that religions are a force for good. But I think it does prove that the question of God hasn't gone away, and that religious faith is a very real part of life for many people. A well-known book that looked at these surprising facts had the title, God is Back, God is Back. And I think it showed that religious questions are almost built into our human nature, even if people disagree wildly about the answers. Where does the world come from? What's the meaning of my life? Is there life after death? Many centuries ago, there was an Anglo-Saxon king in the north of England called Edwin. Most of the country was completely pagan at the time, but a Christian monk called Paulinus went north to meet the king and to tell him about the Christian story. Edwin honestly didn't know what to make of this, but one of his advisors, a strong northern warrior, stood up and spoke these words to his king. Your Majesty, we sit here in this hall, safe from the storm outside, with the fire to warm us. We see a sparrow fly into the hall, in one door and out the other side through another door. You can imagine a sparrow flying through this hall here now. This is what our life is like. We appear on this earth for a brief time, but we know nothing of what went before or what will come afterwards. If this Christian teaching can shed some light on the mysteries of our existence, then at the very least, we should be open to it. So this northern warrior became intrigued by the Christian story. It opened up a question that was hovering at the back of his mind. And in fact, all religions tell a story. All religions, in their different ways, are trying to answer these huge questions about God and creation and life and death. In most cultures, for most of human history, these questions have been urgent and important, and they've been at the very center of people's lives. In much of Western society today, it seems harder to ask these questions. We're more interested in the sparrow flying through the hall. We're fascinated by the beauty of this bird, but we're less interested in what lies beyond the doors. I think there is a religious hunger in many people, or maybe a spiritual hunger that hasn't quite found a language to express itself. But there's also a hesitation. These questions make us vulnerable. We're not quite sure where they will lead us. It would be strange to ignore them, but it's also risky to get them wrong. The first question, though, on which all the others depend, is much simpler and more personal, and it's this: is it worth exploring?